And let's jump right into this show. I'm going to start with the Combine. The Combine is days away. All the owners and the GM and players will show up in Indianapolis. They'll go through their interviews. They'll go through their medical checks. They're going to go through, some will go through on the field. Some will just go through some stuff on the field, and some will wait to their pro days. But there is a shift that is happening right before our eyes. And I don't know if it's a good thing. I don't know if it's a bad thing. I just know that it's a thing and that it's happening. And I'm going to try to eloquently piece these things together. And this isn't uncommon to the players that are happening this way. This has happened for years, 10, 20 years. That you'll have certain players that will not go to the Combine and perform. I get it. I understand it. Some may be completely healthy. I get those who are unhealthy. They don't want to go out there and put a bad showing. But we've seen at a record pace, more so than ever, that more of the top prospects are not performing at the Combine. This is by choice. This is by agent recommendation. And you're starting to see more and more of that. There'll be quarterbacks who won't go to the Combine and throw and do workouts. There's receivers. There are a host of players that will sit out the Combine, some even sitting out their pro day. Most notably, Marvin Harrison Jr., the receiver out of Ohio State. And let me be very clear. I'm going to mind my mouth when I'm talking about Mr. Marvin Harrison Jr. If you're unfamiliar with his daddy, Marvin Harrison, the great Indianapolis Colts wide receiver, Daddy was one who didn't speak many words, but allegedly was about that action. So I'm going to mind my words because I have figured out this thing that people actually listen to what I say. And I've had a couple viral moments happen in the last couple of months. And the last thing your boy Jay Holley need is for old Papa Harrison to find out I said something negative about his boy, and now he show up in Dallas and he got some words for me. So I'm going to be mindful of my mouth when I speak of Marvin Harrison Jr. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is taking precedent, not only not performing at the Combine, but isn't performing at his pro day, and on top of it all, is not going to have an agent. Now, I get not having an agent because we are in times now where there used to be in the draft, it used to be the Wild Wild West. And let me give you the behind the scenes on that. There used to be times where like the number one overall pick would come into the league and he's already had 50, 60, 70 million dollars guaranteed. Guys that come to mind, Jamarcus Russell, quarterback out of Oklahoma, Sam Bradford. Guys like that come to mind, and before they have taken an NFL snap, they are already 50 million plus in guarantees. And then the players, the old dog, this is funny business. Because what happened was the guys in the National Football League, the old dogs, were hating. And they was like, whoa, here it is. I'm busting my tail, and I get it. And I'm working. And I ain't got 50 million guaranteed, 60 million guaranteed. But here are these guys coming into the league who have not had a snap. And they got 50 million in the bank no matter what. And again, it was guys like Roy Williams. It was guys like Sam Bradford, Jamarcus Russell, and others who got major paydays being those top 10 picks. And so what it ended up happening is they began to do what we call slots. And if you are the number one overall pick, you can't name your price like you used to. You're slotted off what the number one pick got last year. Like, that's how they slot you. So if you're the number one pick, number two pick, you don't get a chance to write your own check. You have to go out there now and kind of fit into this slot. And basically the language is the same. So if I'm the number one pick from 2024, The price goes up a little bit percentage-wise because you get a new salary cap, and so things change. But the language stays the same. So I don't need a lawyer. I'm sorry, I don't need an agent to tell me that I'm going to be, if I'm the number one overall pick, my contract will look very similar to the guy who was the number one overall pick the year before, especially if it's position for position. If it's a quarterback last year, it's a quarterback this year, the contract will look just about the same. So all I really need to do is pay a lawyer hourly to go over the contract to make sure all the language is what I understand and what I want it to be. So you're going to see more guys go without an agent because they're saying, I don't need to, we're not negotiating. Nothing is being negotiated. I'm slotted. But now, more so than ever, guys aren't performing at the combine and guys aren't performing at their pro days. And here's where I kind of piece it together, where I think this is going to continue going forward. And it's going to start in college. Because a lot of these guys now, Marvin Harrison Jr., and again, I'm going to mind my mouth because I know who his daddy is. Marvin Harrison Jr. was a prolific receiver at the University of Ohio State, the Ohio State University. Marvin Harrison Jr. probably made, let's say, $2 to $4 million. So Marvin Harrison, unlike players in the past, is leaving the Ohio State University with the bag. He got 4, 5, maybe even more millions already in his account. So he's not worried about if a team saying, well, we don't really, he say, look at the tape. The tape gonna show you I'm the baddest dude out here. And I don't need to go to a pro day, and I don't need to go to a combine, and I don't need to do all these other extra things for y'all. Because even if I drop a few spots, I'm walking into the league with $5 million. And that's a receiver. I told you guys a couple episodes ago, Matt Rule, head coach at Nebraska, talked about the going rate for a starting quarterback in the in the NCAA right now, $1.5 million. So if you're a starting quarterback, the NIL money is starting at $1.5 million. So if you're a guy who's starting for a couple years, if you're Caleb Williams, if you're Shador next year when he comes out, Shador will be leaving Colorado with, what do you say, Tay? $6 million? $7 million? Right? He just got topped by Caitlin Clark as the most profitable NIL athlete in all of college. Between Apple and Tom Brady and all these other things that he's getting, plus the money that he's actually getting from the NIL deal at Colorado. So Shador will leave the university with between $6 to $8 million already in his pocket. So if he decides I'm not throwing at the combine, if he decides I'm not throwing at pro day, not saying that he is, but if he decides to, he ain't worried about dropping a slot or two. It's just all about now team's preference, maybe just wanting to be the number one overall pick. Was Prime number one overall pick? Was Prime?
Sure.
Check that out. I know Prime went pretty high. I don't know if he was a number one overall pick. But it would be probably cool. Like, you know what? I want to go number one like my dad went number one. Fifth overall pick. Yeah. Well, if you look at it, probably pick 1 to pick 5 right now in the league is probably about $6-7 million difference. Maybe a little bit more.
3 Hall of Famers in front of him. Aikman, Barry, Derek Thomas.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad to go 5th. So I'm looking at all of these players who are pocketing all of this money from their NIL deals in college. And I'm looking at them saying, we don't need combines and pro days. Now, there are guys, Spencer Rattler, right? There are guys, Michael Penix Jr. There are other guys who are looking at Sam Hartman, Notre Dame quarterback. Now, those guys may come and they may throw and they may say, you know what? I need to go and show myself to be as good as these other guys. Because in the scouting world, a lot of these guys will look at this situation and go, well, There is something to be said about a player, quarterback, receiver, whoever, who comes to the combine and wants to compete. Teams like that. And I'm not saying that guys like Marvin Harrison or Caleb Williams don't want to compete, but there is a little kind of like, you know what? I'll put a check by his name that this dude came to the combine, was unafraid of what the situation was, and came to compete. Now, if you go and show yourself, maybe you rise your stock a little bit. But there's also the fact that if you're a quarterback, if you're a receiver, there is no chemistry because you're going in alphabetical order, right? So when you come to the throwing portion of the combine, and also the combine is almost like the SAT. It's a very high pressure test. And some people don't perform well when it comes to testing. Now, if you put them in a game, they're gamers. But when it comes to the testing part, they may be tight and they may run slow. They may be a little bit nervous and now they're forgetting their steps. There's a bunch of things that can happen. But when you're throwing or catching and throwing, you're put in alphabetical order. So you may come up and be Jaden Daniels, who's reportedly not throwing at the combine. And now, because of who the alphabetical order goes, you may be throwing to a guy who was invited to the combine who might not be as good of a receiver. Now your throws are off because this guy's running out a great route. And this is what the scouts are seeing. Now you hope the scouts are being able to differentiate between that. But what ends up happening is the national media gets it and now everyone starts talking crazy about you. So I just see things changing. And the NFL, this combine has become a money grab for the NFL. It's become a place where a lot of people gather, but they've been able to put it on national TV on their network, NFL Network, which means people have to buy commercials, which means people buy sponsors. When you look at the NFL Network, there's sponsors, there's logos up there, there's all this different stuff. So it's a money grab as well. Don't think for 1 second the NFL is not profiting off of this NFL Combine. Believe you me. And it's a 4 or 5 days thing where every single day they're looking for viewership. Viewership means commercials. I can sell commercials. Especially now the linemen may not get all of the glory because they're linemen. Oh, but folks tuning in for that 40. Folks tuning in for the quarterbacks to throw. Folks tuning in for certain things. So you can leverage that when you got to go out and buy commercials. You say, hey, quarterbacks are throwing. I'm going to do a little, that commercial now that was $250,000 now is $500,000. Or whatever the numbers may be. I'm just giving you ballpark numbers. But it's changing because the players are starting to see more and more that my skills over college is starting to speak for themselves. And now if guys start missing combines and not showing up to combines, the guys that we want to see, because they sometimes elect to do it at their pro day because the pro day, the player controls. If you ever notice, when you see at the NFL Combine, coaches control it. They control the throws. They control the routes. They control every single thing that you see at the Combine. At the Pro Day, they don't have any control. They can ask. They can suggest, hey, I want to see you run this route. Hey, can I see you run? Now, a player can say no. But normally, when it comes to quarterbacking, to receiving, you'll see guys come in and they'll say what? Got a script. Here is Drake May's script. Here is Jaden Daniels' script. Now I'm throwing the receivers who I know. I'm more comfortable with those receivers. These are my guys who I played with. Some veteran guys may have come back. You're starting to see more of that now. But players are taking more control of their future, and I think a lot of it has to stem from the fact that they're not walking into the combine as hungry players. Hungry dudes scrapping for an opportunity. Now, Michael Penix is walking into the combine with $3 million in the bank, right? Sam Hartman is walking into the combine with $1.5 million in the bank. These guys aren't walking into the combine anymore as these hungry athletes looking for an opportunity to showcase my talent. Shador Sanders in 2025 will walk into the combine damn near $10 million deep in his pocket. Now, I'm not saying that he's not a hungry player. But it's hard to be hungry when you're sleeping on silk sheets. A boxer said that. I forgot what boxer said that. So guys are saying, I don't need to do that. I got $10 million in the bank. Listen, I'll either do it at my pro day or I'll do it on my individual workouts that I'll set up and design.